Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, joined in the studio by Ali Moreno. The lineup is set for this year's Europa League semi-finals. Manchester United comfortably through after beating Granada 2-0 at Old Trafford. They will face Roma, who were made to sweat against Ajax. Meanwhile, the other semi-final will see Villarreal face arguably the most impressive performance we saw today. Arsenal going away from home and thrashing Slavia Prague as we welcome in. First off, let's take a look at the odds, shall we? Manchester United are favourites. Evens compared to Arsenal 11-4, Villarreal 4s, Roma at 6-1. Gab Marcotti with us, Don Hutchison and Shaka Hislop as well. Don, Manchester United favourites, you agree with this?
Yeah, I think so, Dan. I think they'll play Arsenal in the final.
Of course you do. Premier League bias.
I was commentating on Villarreal Zagreb, and my emotions were coming away from those two legs as how on earth did this Zagreb side beat Tottenham 3-0, because they were never ever in Villarreal's class. Villarreal have got a couple of players at the top end of the pitch. Moreno knows where the back of the net is, that's for sure. And they've got a rough diamond, a Nigerian right winger who cuts inside onto his left foot, called Samuel Chukwueze. He's a real exceptional talent, but I'd be stunned if Arsenal didn't make it to the final.
It's a Unai Emery bowl, Gab.
It is, and you know the amazing thing, and again, I never know how much weight we should give to sort of the manager's individual record in knockout competitions, but I think very few people in the history of football come close to matching Unai Emery's, obviously function of his time at Sevilla. So, whereas Arsenal inevitably they blow hot and cold. That's kind of what they do. So. I don't know. I think it's going to be a lot closer potentially, and I wouldn't be counting my chickens yet if I were an Arsenal fan.
Meanwhile, from a Manchester United perspective, Shaq, if we were to stir the pot and upset people and get them on YouTube making all their comments, we'd say this is a major bust if they don't win this tournament, considering the quality of the opponents around them. No.
Yeah, absolutely. Given who's left in the competition, United, you think has the beating of all of them. When you look at opponents such as Arsenal, who are second favourites, they're languishing in the Premier League. Roma, Villarreal themselves not pulling up treason in their own domestic leagues. And a United team who are 7 points clear of Leicester in third. Surely Ole Gunnar Solskjaer can rotate a squad, can rest players, make sure that they're in peak form and fitness for what's to come in the Europa League. If they don't win it from here on in, they've only got themselves to blame. And if they don't, and the criticism comes, it'll be well due.
It could be another semi-final, Ali, that Ole Solskjaer lose. You take a look at it, he's looking to make it fifth time lucky. The last 4 occasions, he's been knocked out at this stage.
And it would be a full-on failure. It's not so much clickbait as you just kind of referred to it, and we're just trying to get a reaction.
We're above that, Ali.
We are above that. Much further above that. And let me just say that Manchester United and the team that was out on the field today and the team that has been playing so very well for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer this season should be the favorites and far away favorites in terms of who should win this competition. The other teams, you talk about flawed, you talk about inconsistent, you talk about teams that are not in the same category or should not be in the same category. So the very best of Manchester United should be much better than everybody else that's still involved in the Europa League. Roma today hanging on, barely hanging on against a very average Ajax team. And that's the opposition in the semifinals. I assume, and it's a strong assumption, I assume that Manchester United gets past Roma. And then after that, whether it's Villarreal or whether it's Arsenal, it should be Manchester United all the time. The talent level is superior to everybody else involved in this competition.
Another goal for Cavani today, Don. Obviously, a lot of question marks as to whether or not he'll be at Manchester United next season. Let's talk about their need for a striker, if indeed there is a need for one. If Cavani goes, could you get a Greenwood or a Rashford or a Martial to kind of play that role more consistently? Or do you need to go out and pursue a Harry Kane?
I don't think Rashford nor Martial can be anywhere near as effective as Cavani. I see Greenwood being their number 9 for years to come. And when I watch Cavani tonight, I've watched him so many times, especially since he's been to Man United. The guy loves scoring goals, Dan. You can see it in his facial expressions. He absolutely loves it. It means something to him. You know, when I see Rashford or more so Martial, I'm always wanting more from Martial. He doesn't love to score goals. He gets them and he sort of celebrates them. But I think with Greenwood, he's going to be the player that's going to lead Man United's line. It's just...
So would you go Greenwood? Would you put Greenwood in that role and just go, look, I'll spend our money elsewhere and not pursue someone like Harry Kane?
I think the trouble with it, Dan, it's hard because I do see Greenwood leading that line for many a year. But the problem is when people like Kane and people like Haaland come up for sale, if you don't buy them, you're basically strengthening someone else. So if Man City buys Harry Kane or Haaland and United stick with Greenwood, because in the short term, Greenwood's going to be learning. He's going to be learning off Cavani. He's going to be an unbelievable striker, but you've got to give him, I don't know, a couple of seasons at least to get going, where Man City might steal the march if they go and get Harry Kane or Haaland. So it's a dilemma. It's a hard one, I think, for Ole to try and fix. But I think if I was Ole, I would go and get Harry Kane. I think he guarantees you 30 goals every single season, and I think he'd be the striker that you'd want. But for sure, I look at United strikers now, and I only see Mason Greenwood that can play as a 9 if Cavani left.
I can tell you this, Dan. When you watch Cavani play against Spurs, right, the little movements, in particular in the one in the goal that was brought back because of the foul on McTominay, those little diagonal movements from Cavani, you don't see those from Rashford, you don't see them from Greenwood. Those movements come from guys who know how to play the position and have a feeling for the position, that are natural strikers, guys that can move in those little spaces and the timing in which they appear in the box. The diving header against Spurs doesn't happen by accident, in that he understands when is his moment to make the run. That timing comes from a natural instinct that Cavani has, that those other guys have in terms of, oh yeah, they can score a goal here and there, and Greenwood may have it long term. But Cavani is a full finished product, whereas all these other guys are still projects in playing the full-on striker position.
Gab, who's going to be Manchester United striker at the start of next season? Kane, Haaland, Greenwood or Cavani?
Ooh. I don't know that the club necessarily, I think Haaland and Kane belong in different categories, because if you talk about Kane, you're talking about a guy who's going to have 5, 6, 7 years at the highest level, and who's going to cost you an arm and a leg. Same as Haaland. Different with Haaland, though, is that you're going to have him for more than a decade. So for that reason, I think it's more likely that United end up perhaps either renewing Cavani or getting another, veteran striker that they can slot into the Cavani role. Because I agree with what the boy said. Mason Greenwood is the future. You want him to ease him into that position at center forward. You don't want to dump all the responsibility of the world on his shoulders at his young age playing center forward, but you want his playing time to go up. And so, serving an apprenticeship alongside a Cavani or a Cavani type, I think is the best way, and I think is a better option, than going and blowing an enormous amount of money on Harry Kane when there are other positions that also need to be strengthened.
Meanwhile, at the back, Shaka, De Gea returning in goal today. Obviously, Henderson been playing in the league. This is going to be a big mess for United going forward, isn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely will, especially if some of those reports that we had about De Gea and how upset he was at being left out and Solskjaer changing his mind, if those are true, I don't think De Gea makes it any easier for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer going forward. That being said, this is an opportunity for Solskjaer to kind of show who's boss, show who's the manager, who's picking his starting 11. He has to continue with Henderson, at least during the league games. Whether he continues to use De Gea all the way through in the Europa League, that's fine, and including in the final. We've had this discussion about changing goalkeepers before, but if he reintroduces De Gea as his preferred number 1, particularly in the league, anytime between now and the end of the season, I just feel it dents his own authority within that dressing room.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.